Buonasera a tutti. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this webinar featuring one of Italy's most read and appreciated writers, Dacia Maraini. For those of you who are connecting with us for the first time, welcome. I am the director of the Italian Cultural Institute in Washington, D.C., and I am incredibly grateful and happy to see you so numerous tonight, joining us from all parts of the United States, but also from our own Italy, Europe, and Latin America. In these days of lockdown and social distancing, there is for sure one thing that we can rely on for some good company and inspiration: reading. Literature always stood by our side, but especially I think that in this kind of suspended time that we're living in, literature can fill our present with sense and meaning. Literature is one of those arts that can help us unveil and analyze the contradictions of our society. It can help us overcoming challenges, and most importantly, it urges us to empathize with each other. Through the invisible threads of literature, all of humanity is connected. Today, we're very honored to explore these themes and spend the evening with Dacia Maraini, who penned some of the most important and famous pages of Italian literature. When hosting an event with Dacia Maraini, the host, which is me, faces an Hamlet-like dilemma. Does Dacia Maraini need introductions? Well, not really. For sure, not in Italy, but I would say that this is also true in the United States, considering the response to this program. Novelist, poet, dramatist, journalist, Dacia Maraini wrote more than 70 books, which have been translated in more than 30 languages. Today, she's still a prolific writer, capable of relating to her audience as if she started writing yesterday. About a week ago, she released in Italy her latest book for Rizzoli, titled Trio, and which I'm sure we will discuss more in depth tonight. Dacia Maraini has been a protagonist of Italian culture in many ways, being not just a writer, but also a true intellectual, capable of feeding much needed debates about women's rights, civil rights, and equality. Leading the conversation tonight will be Professor Michelangelo La Luna, a good friend of Dacia and of our institute. Professor La Luna teaches Italian at the Department of Modern and Classical Languages at the University of Rhode Island since 2003. He's also the director of the book series Sofia, for which he edited several volumes in honor of Dacia Maraini. Therefore, I couldn't have imagined a better facilitator for this conversation. Before we start, just a technical note to let you know that we will be collecting questions for Ms. Maraini. You can use the Q&A section at the bottom of your Zoom client at any time during the webinar, and we will try to answer to as many questions as possible at the end of the conversation. Thank you all again for joining us tonight. Thank you, Professor La Luna. Thank you, Dacia Maraini, especially considering that it's quite late at night in Italy. It's an incredible honor to have you with us. Dacia, Michelangelo, the floor is all yours.
Thank you very much, Emanuele, for organizing this conversation with Dacia Maraini. It is a big pleasure and an honor for me to introduce you to the biggest Italian writer. And I would like to start from myself. I edited 7 books of Dacia Maraini, 2 in Italian, the first and the last one of the list, and 5 in English, Writing Like Breathing, an homage to Dacia Maraini. We are now publishing the 4th volume of this series, Dacia Maraini and Her Literary Journey, and then we will publish the first script in a month or so, and in the fall there will be this book in Italian, Beloved Writing 50 anni di carriera, the title may change, by Gruppo Albatros Il Filo. For the books in English, I would like to thank the Consenso Publishing and Pino Zancaro, the publishing director, manager, for believing in this project. I was asked also to talk a little bit about Dacia Maraini, because not everybody may know her very well. The prominent themes in Maraini's works are women's rights, gender equality, racism, immigration, Holocaust, environment, diversity and inclusion, violence against women, violence against children. Very, very interesting themes, I would say. Dacia Maraini was born in Fiesole, in Italy in 1936, and when she was only 2 years old, she moved to Japan with her mother, Topazia. The father, Fosco, got a scholarship to work as a researcher on the Ainu minority at Hokkaido University, and therefore Topazia and Dacia went to Japan to stay with Fosco. They lived in Hokkaido and Sapporo, and Dacia was raised in a Japanese culture, speaking Japanese, but she also knew some English because the mom was speaking to her in English. In Japan, Yuki and Toni, the two sisters, were born respectively in 1939 and in 1941. You can find all this information, more, of course, in Topazia's diary on Japan, published in 2001 by Dacia herself in the book La nave per Kobe, The Ship for Kobe, and in Toni Maraini's edition of Ricordi d'arte prigionia di Topazia Alliata, with an interview to Topazia, published in 2003. In 1941, when Japan joins the war, the social dynamic shifted and Italians were under close observation. The political conversation were prohibited, and Topazia stopped writing her journal because she was afraid of being accused of espionage. With the Badoglio proclamation of l'armistizio and the Mussolini establishment of La Repubblica di Salò, things changed dramatically in the fall of 1943. The Italians in Japan were asked to declare their loyalty to the Republic of Salò, and Fosco, although his father Antonio was a fascist, but also Topazia, refused to do so. And they were considered traitors and prisoners. You can understand why Fosco was not a fascist by reading together with me what he said to little Dacia. She was only 4 years old in 1940. He said to her, "Remember, there are no races, only cultures. Races do not exist." So they put them first under house arrest as political prisoners, and then into the Nagoya concentration camp, where they stayed from 1943 until the end of the war in 1945, in August. As we all know, Japan ended the war a little bit later. So my first question for Dacia, and you can read here where she writes about her experience in Japan, is if she can talk to us a little bit about her experience in the Nagoya concentration camp. What do you remember about it, and other things that you like to add? Dacia?
Were dying of hunger. We had only just a small amount of rice without any protein, without any vitamin, without any vegetables, fruit, nothing. And so we were ill because, you know, when you are hungry all the time, you become ill. We had scorbuto, I don't know the name in English, but scorbuto, beriberi, maybe, I think beriberi is a name international known coming from Japan, from Japanese. It comes out from the lack of vitamins. And also there were bombs, because while we were there in Nagoya in the concentration camp, the Allies were bombarding all the time the camp, not only the camp, but all the surroundings. And so we were between dying of hunger or dying of bombing. We have been lucky not to die, I mean. And then there were also earthquakes, and also that was another danger, very strong earthquakes. Well, then after 2 years of these terrible lives, we were free, the Americans, and I can't forget the happiness and the joy and these wonderful young American soldiers. They were in that moment. They were the side of freedom. You see, so we look at them as really liberators. It was a great moment for the American army. And I remember that they were so kind with us because we were three little children, blonde with blue eyes, and that remembered them, their families, I think, in their country. So they were giving us a lot of things to eat, and they were very, very nice and kind and joyful. And well, mm, I can say that the Japanese people, they were absolutely against the war. So when we had some relation, sometime there were some peasants who used to come to near the camp, and sometimes we could have some words with them. Myself, I was a small girl. I could go through the wilds and I was going to make some work in the sense of picking some tomatoes or potatoes, and at the end of the day, they would give me one potato or one tomato. And I was speaking, I knew very well Japanese, and they were telling me that they had enough of the war. They didn't want the war anymore. Mm-hmm. So I used to divide the military people who were very, very sadistic, and on the other side, the normal people who were very nice, kind, and very friendly with us. This was my experience. That made me think with sympathy to the Japanese people. I never had a sense of hate for the Japanese people. This, I think, is important, and gave me a good relation with the Japanese people. That for after the war, they have invited me several times to go there. They have published all my books. They have also represented some of my plays, and I go always with a great sympathy with the Japanese people.
Thank you very much. So I'm going to continue with the slideshow. The Maraini's family went back to Italy in 1946 in the summer. They landed in Le Havre in France, and then they went to Florence for a few months, and then they went back to Bagheria and to this wonderful villa that you can see, Val Guarnera, belonging to the Alliata family. Maraini and their sisters were Poggioline, and they studied in Florence and at this Educantato Statale. Then Maraini Dacia went back to study in Palermo at the Liceo Ginnasio Garibaldi. And when the parents separated, she decided to complete her lyceum, il Liceo Classico, at the Terenzio Mamiani Liceo in Rome. So she moved to Rome. And in Rome, she starts her writing career. She writes the first novel, La Vacanza, and the second one, L'età del malessere, which wins the Formentor Prize, $10,000. At that time, there were a lot of money. And the book is immediately translated into English as The Age of Discontent. This is the London, England edition, and The Age of Maraini is the New York edition. And then she continues to work with theater. In the 70s, Dacia has some experiences also with film. And she directs L'amore coniugale, a movie written together with Alberto Moravia. She writes Memorie di una ladra, a book that was turned into a movie, Teresa la Ladra, and that was considered by Pierpaolo Pasolini a very good picaresque novel, un romanzo picaresco. And after reading this book, Pierpaolo Pasolini invited Dacia to write together with her the script for the movie Il fiore delle mille e una notte, in those famous 20 days that you spend at the beach without even taking a swim. And finally, she wrote the first strong, if we can use this adjective, feminist novel, Donna in Guerra, in 1975, and she founded and directed Il Teatro della Maddalena, which was a women-only production, so very important. And there are other notable books that she wrote and she published. She started to publish with Rizzoli, Treno per Helsinki, Isolina, La lunga vita di Mariano Cria, very important because she won with La lunga vita di Mariano Cria the Premio Campiello in 1990, Voci, Voices, and Buio, awarded with Premio Strega, another very important literary prize in Italy. Now we move a little bit to the United States, where I am this year because I cannot go back home in Italy. And as people can read, Dacia Maraini has been a guest and visiting scholars of many prestigious universities, among which we remember Harvard, Princeton, and NYU. You can read on your own this list of universities. So here I have another question, and as you talk, maybe we can scroll down the slideshow and see other slides while you talk. I would like to ask you, what is your relationship with the United States? What do you like to talk about? There are so many things to say of the past, the present, the future. Whatever you like to say about the United States.
Well, as I said, the first meeting with America has been wonderful, really lovely, because, you know, they were these young liberators who came to liberate us from the concentration camp. It was a very wonderful moment. Then for many years I didn't go to the States, but then when I was older, I was interested, and I had friends in America, and I started to visit the universities. And I think I can say that there is really great difference between the people who stay in the universities and those who don't stay in the university. And I think that American universities are very, very important, because usually when we say in Italy, we speak about the American universities, they say, oh, but they are only for rich people because you pay a lot of money to get inside. But then staying there, I knew that, yes, this is true, that they are very expensive. But in the same time, I knew that there were many, many students who were not rich, but if you really study very hard, you can have a grant. That's why I found in most of this university, the major beautiful universities, a lot of young students who are not rich at all, but they have grants to stay there, to study free or working inside. But what I found was very interesting on the side, that, for example, I found a deepness of knowledge, which is very interesting. For example, when I went, I remember I was writing a play on Veronica Franco. Veronica Franco is a poet, a female poet, who lived in the 16th century in Italy, in Venice, and she was a prostitute. She was what you say, a courtesan, una cortigiana. But she started on the street because her mother was a prostitute. But she was so clever, so she was determined, and she started to study by her own because she was not allowed to go to school. But she spent all her money to buy books and start to learn. And she became a famous intellectual. And she opened a salotto where all the great poets and literary people and musicians came to her to visit, not just to have sex, but to have conversation with her. She was such a beautiful mind and a great poet, really. Well, when I came to America, one of the first times, I was writing a play, as I said, about Veronica Franco, and which in Italy nobody knew, or nobody spoke about her. And yes, you can find some notes about her in the books, but not great. It's not, nobody knows her now. The young people don't know anything about her. When I went to the States, I found in 3 universities that there were young students that they were studying about Veronica Franco. That was, for me, a surprise, a wonderful surprise, which means that that the studies go very deep in foreign studies. That's the thing, interesting thing of the university, American university. So I feel very, how can I say, comfortable and at home in the university. Out of the university, the question becomes much more problematic. And I find people, even they don't know where is Italy. And on the other side, really knowledgeable people, young people who really go deeply inside the knowledge of other countries. So I think there is, well, everywhere we have this sort of contradiction between people who are inside, who are interested in history, who are engaged in politics. It's not a question of money or being wealthy families, but people who want to know, who are interested. We have and we don't have this kind. And on the other side, people who really don't want to look at reality. They want to know only about football. They speak about food and nothing else. I mean, they don't have any interest in politics. Politics in the sense not of parties, but in the politics in the sense of how we can deal with the future, how we can live together, how we can preserve our territory, etc., etc. I think this is happens everywhere. There is a difference between those who are careful and interested and those who are not. My hope, I hope always that these people who care about the future can become majority, but very often they are minority.
Thank you very much. As you can see, I move forward, and I'm showing you here a slide of some of the latest novels that Maraini wrote. So she is a very active writer, as Manuele was stressing before. And now we move to your latest novel, Trio, which is an elaboration of the 2006 short story Un sonno senza sogni, which is a sentence taken by the philosopher Leibniz. You published this with Drago Editore in Bagheria, and this was a sort of an appendix to your historical novel La lunga vita di Mariano Cria, but it didn't really fit with the topic, so you put it on the side. maybe you used the Memoria Historica of Orazio Turriano for the historical part of the plague in Messina in 1743, 1744. I just want to summarize for the people that are listening to us. This plague started because of some sailors that came from Greece, from Missolonghi, bringing wheat, wool, and other fabrics to Messina. One of the sailors died during the trip. They say that he had an heart attack, but the local authorities did not believe it and put everybody in quarantine. Quarantine, but really 40 days, not like today, 14 days. So they stayed in quarantine until May of that year, except for the captain who died 1 week after arriving in Messina. And it looked like there was nothing to worry because all the sailors were healed. The boat was, the tartan was burned, also its merchandise was burned. But suddenly, as it happened today, so maybe we don't learn too much from history, the virus spread out. It was very virulent, and people got sick, and then it was too late. So first question, how did you end up writing this story? And also if you can talk a little bit about the title, from Sono senza sogni to Trio. Why Trio? Why this musical term?
Well, when I was making research for my book, which has been translated as The Silent Duchess in the 90s, I felt on a chronicle of
I found it up.
On the chronicle of the plague of Messina in 1743. And I was impressed, strongly impressed by the terrible encounter of what happened in this wonderful, beautiful city in which the majority, nearly 70% of people died. And I was impressed because, well, on the side of sanitary, technology, naturally, there are great differences. But on the side of psychology, I think that there are many things that are similar today. First of all, the fear, you see, creates terrible things because people are afraid one of the other. People start to think that they want to close everything, the doors, the country, the family, and then they are suspicious of everybody. And, you know, from fear, sometimes, very often, come out war. You see, this is the danger of fear when it spreads so fast. On the other, and then on the other side, the need to find a response, somebody who is responsible. You see, as if there was somebody who really wanted to spread the virus around, which is a stupid idea because, I mean, nobody wants to do a thing like that because it comes back to himself. So it doesn't, it's not an intelligent idea. But even today, we think, and I speak with the people very usually ignorant people, but usually they say, oh, it's all the responsibility of the China, or the responsibility of, yes. Last day I was speaking with a taxi driver and he was saying, oh, this is something that Mrs. Merkel did for power, because she wanted to make to be more strong than all Europe. You know, they want to find somebody who is responsible and want to take violence against this person or this group, or somebody thinks that is the fault of big pharma. No? They
Yeah,
think
like
that
the Untori in Manzoni.
that's right. That's right. So this is this means that technology changed, and we have a great advance in finding new way of living, way of flying, way of going around the universe. But in the same time, as persons, as a psychology, we are all the same. We are always the same. We don't change much. I mean, even we don't. Sometimes we are very childish. In front of fear, people become childish. And what I mean with childish, mean that they behave as if they were children without understanding that every action has a consequence. A consequence. I mean, a person, for me, a person who is conscious, who is mature, who is responsible, is somebody who understands that when you act in a way, there are certain consequences, and you have to know which are the consequences. Well, being a child is but child is excused because he's a child. But usually, many grown-up people behave as children. That means that they behave without thinking of the effect and the consequence of their actions. This is the terrible thing that happens when there is this fear, when the people are afraid. They just close in themselves. They don't want to think. They don't want to confront reality, and they become like children. This is irresponsible. And I think that today, in many sides of the world, this happens. There are entire countries with also leaders that become like children, that they don't care about the consequence of their act. And I think this is the worst thing that can happen with the pandemic, like what we are dealing today. On the other side, but we have to say also that on the other side, we have people, wonderful people, who are not only responsible, but they want to help. They are caring for other people. They are going around, even if they risk their life. And this, we have a lot of, a great number of Italians, young people, who are very generous, and we call volontariato, voluntary people who give their work for nothing, and they are going around the world, and they are volunteers. Bravo, qualcuno mi ha suggerito. Volunteers, that's right. And that is a wonderful side. I mean, Italy is the same of many other countries. There are those who don't want to see. They put their head under the sand, and they don't want to see. They want to close the door. They want to close the frontiers, and they don't want to know. And other people who are very generous, who are helping, they say, what can I do for the others? And well, some of those, for example, during this period, were nurses and doctors, and we had a great number of doctors and infermieri, come si dice? Nurse who died because they risked their life to help other people. And that's, I think, but we don't speak much about them. Italy, which is a wonderful country and a very creative country, on the same time we are our defect is to be sometimes too much individualistic.
Mm-hmm.
That means that uh, we have a difficulty to put us together, to feel that we are a community. Everybody wants his own party, his own ideas against all the others. This is our defect. But on the same time, we have wonderful Italians who are, as I said before, helping and doing living in a very generous way. So I'm on that side, and I hope that they will become the majority, or they will try to push the country on that side.
Although you listed those defects, I think that Italy did a great job, especially if we can compare it to the United States and to other places in the world where the virus is spreading. But I would like to go back to the book, and in Trio, we have two women who are the protagonists. People can see this wonderful cover. Agatha in Messina and Annuzza in Palermo. They start writing to each other. They are very good friends. And what unites them is love, but a special love, because they share both the love with Girolamo. Girolamo is Agatha's husband, but what kind of love is the one of friendship among two women, especially if there is a man in between them?
Well, these two women have been very friends when they were children. They used to live in Palermo. They were going to school. They were no school at that time, but they were going to a convent to learn some come si dice, cucire, to sew, and they grow up together. They were very great friends, and they were also special girls, because women didn't study at that time, even men, but more men than women. Women were absolutely not allowed to study. So they were like Veronica Franco. They were very talented, very intelligent. They started to learn things through books. They were learning through French books, English books, Spanish books. I must say that in that period, Sicily was the center of the Mediterranean, and it was really a very cultural living center, very important living center. And there were a great exchange between France and England and Spain in Italy. And so they learn something. They are different from the other women of their age, because they were feelings that something was changing in the mind, in the attitude of the people. And this change, it was true. They didn't realize in the ideological way that something was changing, but they felt it. And but the changing was true. And this change comes out at the end of the century with Illuminism. Come si chiama Illuminismo?
Illuminism.
Okay. And with the French Revolution, which have been the great exchange.
And we can say enlightenment also. Maybe it's better.
Enlightenment. Okay. And it was a moment of a great moment of exchange. And they felt this. So they are coming out from a culture in which religion was the center of everything. And they come out in a culture in which reason and democracy and fraternity and equality are important. They feel this. So when they realize that the husband of one of them is in love with with the most great friend of his wife, they don't become enemies. They are not jealous, or maybe there is some jealousy, but they want to go away from jealousy. They want to go farther. They want to believe that in freedom. So it's something which is very important for the moment. It's something, and I feel that friendship is not only a question of sentiment. Friendship is also a program of culture, a cultural program. You are a friend of a person because you feel the same things, because you have the same attitude for the future, because you feel that you are solidarity with the person with the same ideas, and you exchange your mind with this person. And also, I think that freedom, friendship is very important, because is the only sentiment in which you don't ask something back. I mean, when you love somebody, well, it's naturally that you ask to be loved. You love and you want to be loved, you know? And then there is eros, there is sex, which is very strong and very animalesque in relation with two persons. Well, in friendship, there is no sex, luckily, or if there is some kind of eros, is sublimized, and so I think is the more free and more noble sentiment that we can have. You don't ask anything back to a friend, you know, if it is a true friendship, not the interested friendship. But if you are really friendship, you respect freedom of your friend, and you don't ask anything, just friendship. This is, I think, the great importance of friendship. And these two women, in a moment in which the friendship between women was considered something dangerous, because they could be solidarity. They could have solidarity between them. No, they could react against the power of a paternal law, and so they react to this mentality with this practice of freedom, friendship. And then maybe I can tell something about the men.
Yeah, Girolamo, because he doesn't really act too much. He doesn't react.
I want to say something about this man. For me, Girolamo is Ulisse. How do you say in English, Ulisse? Ulisse?
Ulysses.
Ulysses.
And Odysseus also, from the Greek.
Yes, Ulysses. Yeah. Because you see, Ulysses is a very fascinating man. He's lovable. He's not weak. He's not a monster. He's not egoistic. He's a man who doesn't believe in stability. Mm-hmm. He's a man who wants to go always. Mm-hmm. If you think to Ulysses, no, he says that he goes away. He takes the boat to go to his town, his house, his wife, no? his son. But in the same time, he takes 10 years to go there, because he stops, for example, in a place with the church, and he stays there 7 years. Then he goes to another place, and he's in love with the Calypso, and he stays 10 years. So no, he in all 10 years to go home. There is a moment in which in one of these letters, one of them says, well, you know, he's like that. If you love him, you have to accept him as it is. And she says, if he would stay all the time with me, he would desire to come to you. And if he decide to stay with you, certainly he would decide to come to me. You see, he's a person like Ulysses is like this. So I don't judge him as a bad person. I think he's as sometimes person are, that he's like a bird. He want to fly. He need to fly away always, and that's so what is the also the fascination the amability of this man, who is also a beautiful man, and all the girls, all the women fall in love with him.
It's interesting the fact that you quote Ulysses from Dante Alighieri, who follows knowledge, because we are talking about a period, the period of the Enlightenment in Sicily and throughout Europe, and it's clear that those two women are also receiving a different education. I think that before the Enlightenment, I don't want to generalize, but the women were educated to be jealous of each other. And there was this term, divide et impera, in Latin, that you used to say that the separation will favor the power, the rule, the control of the patriarchal society. So I'm not sure if you want to talk a little bit more about this aspect.
Well, as I said, the friendship between women was considered dangerous. So the women were encouraged not to have friends. They could have a good relation with the mother, with the sister, but not with another woman, because they were too freedom. The danger of freedom is always have been considered a danger for society, a male-centered society. But so that's why they are so courageous, because they go against the come si dice, luoghi comuni, the conventions of their times. They go against the conventions, yes, of their time, and that comes out not only because they are affectionate one to the other, but also because they have matured. They became mature through books. They have read books, and their mind became more free, more open, because they read books. That's what I think, that books are very important, because your mind become more how can I say, yes, open, but also because you when you read a book, you rewrite the book. Mm-hmm. So you put in your engine, which is imagination. For me, imagination is the more strong engine of our body. So if you read, this engine becomes more and more fluid, becomes more and more able, and you can understand more. You can enter in other cultures, in other worlds, in other psychologies, in other centuries. And this is a way of traveling in time and in space, you see. And this gives a great freedom to your mind. That's why we say it's important to read. Because, you know, when I go to the schools, very often I'm invited to speak with the students. And sometimes the students say, but why is so important? Because the teachers now, they say, you have to read. And so they say, why is so important to read? I have my technology, I have my iPad, etc., my iPhone. Why I should read books? And I try to explain this, that I said to you, that when you read, you don't have everything already done in front of your eyes. You don't have images. You have just small black signs, and you have to interpret these signs with your imagination, and you have to create in your mind characters, uh, uh, landscapes, persons, world. And this is the creative side of imagination. I think the imagination is the more important thing we have in our body. Now, without imagination, we are dead. But imagination, for example, you can imagine the pain of the other people, and from that comes, for example, solidarity, comes morality, comes ethics. The ethics for me comes from imagination, not from formulas, abstract formulas, but from imagination. But when you think of, yes, empathy, when you think about, yes, that's the right word, with empathy to the other person, you can become a person, a generous person, a person who takes care of others and not only close his door and consider the world made of enemies. No, all the fanatism, religious, political fanatism, that that think that you have the truth, that you are the truth, that all the others are wrong because you have the only truth. Fundamentalist, just so. So if you are the fundamentalists think that they have the truth, all the others are wrong, and this is terrible because it's like you don't think of the people as persons. You think the people as categories, and this is terrible because you can kill them and then don't care because they are not persons. And that depersonalization, if I can say that strange word, is the worst thing that can happen in the world. The depersonalization. Well, the books are a way of personalizing. Words are so complicated this time of night, but trying to I think for the best thing to do is try to
the personality, you want to say.
to think that all the person who you encounter are sacred, sacred, even if not religious, but they are sacred.
Mm-hmm. I can hear the URI bell, which means that we talked for about an hour, and I don't want to take more of your time. I had other questions, but it's fine. Maybe I rather would like to see if there is anybody who wants to ask any questions, and Emanuele can read from the chat. I'm not sure if Emanuele has anything. Otherwise, I can continue.
I'm here and I'm happy to share the questions that we have been receiving through the chat and the Q&A section. Actually, we have many, so we'll try to go through most of them. So, for example, we have a first one from Marianne, who was asking Dacia about your daily writing routine. How do you write? Do you set a goal for yourself? Have you ever dealt with the writer's block?
No, I write. I wake up early in the morning, and I wash myself. I eat something, and then I sit in front of the computer, and I write. I write for 3-4 hours. Then I stop for going. Now I'm in the mountain. I'm not in Rome. I'm in Abruzzo, in the park, in a great, one of the more ancient park, full of wonderful woods and forests, which I like very much. I work very, very well here because there is silence, because there are these wonderful trees around me, and well, I write all the day. Then I eat something, I read newspapers, and then I start again. And I go out till I go on till 6 or 7 in the evening, I make a walk in the woods, and then I come back and I cook, because I like to cook for friends. Usually in this house in the country, I have friends because well, I have some rooms in Rome. I have a very small apartment, and I don't have a place for friends. But so I would say that my style of working is to rewrite. Yes, I can stay 2 years to write a novel, rewrite, start again, rewrite again, rewrite again. This, for me, is very important.
Thank you.
Thank you in the end.
And we also have a very interesting question from Katerina, who is asking about, well, your travels around the world, especially in India and Africa, but also about the special friendship that you had with another very important intellectual in Italy, Pier Paolo Pasolini. What was the relationship like between the two of you?
Well, he was a great friend. We made a lot of traveling around the world together. Sometimes it was because he was looking for places for his films, like in Africa. For example, once we went to Africa, and he wanted to make a film with black people on Orestiade, on the story of Orestes and Clytemnestra, etc., the Greek tragedy. And in the middle, that we found wonderful actors, black actors of Africa for the film. And when he was already closing the film, and I was working with him, came a telegram from the producer who said that he thought in his mind that nobody in Italy would be interested in looking a film with black actors, which I think it was very stupid by him. But he cut the money, and so Pasolini couldn't do the film, and he did a documentary with what he had come si dice, girato, film that moment. That would have been a very, very beautiful experience for me. He was a silent man. He didn't speak much, but he was not a silent of void, but it was full of solidarity, of affection. He was a wonderful friend. Come si dice, mi manca.
You miss him.
I miss him. Yes, I miss him very much.
We all do in in a literary sense, but fortunately we have his work with us. And Hilary is asking you, since you've been talking a lot about the friendship between the two protagonists of Trio, she also remembers the friendship between Vanina and Rosa in Donna in Guerra. And she's saying, not every female friendship has the potential to challenge and derail heteropatriarchy, however. So what are the elements or components of female friendships that allow solidarity and resistance?
Well, it's a question of having the same ideas, the same attitude in front of the future. No, is a way of looking at the future. I think is very it can make important a friendship. But in this book, the last one, which I wrote it in a very short time because all the research, historical research I had been already done it when I was writing Maria Naukria, the Silent Duchess. So I had already all the material in my hands. And also I have already written a short story which was published in 2006. So it was easy for me. But I think that the friendship in this situation is more important because they are separated by this conflict, by this contradiction. They love the same person, the same man. Well, this usually creates a big enemies between one and the other, competition. They hate each other. They try to destroy the other. No, this is jealousy. Well, the strong thing for them is that they superate, come si dice, superare?
They go beyond.
Eh?
They go beyond.
Beyond. They go beyond.
Overcome. No.
I'm sorry, but I'm very tired because I've been working all the day, so I lose some words. Yes, they go beyond this natural sentiment, which is jealousy, which I think is a very natural and human sentiment. But in the same time, it is also very archaic, very old, very well. We have this sentiment in common with animals. The animals, if somebody who knows animals knows that they are very jealous. They can be very jealous, very aggressive, very violent, very vindictive. Vengeance is very strong when you are jealous or you hate somebody, no? Well, they believe in something which is changing, as I said. They want to go out from the tradition. They want to be more modern than what is normality of people who have a relation that they feel that there is come si dice, tradimento,
betrayal.
The betrayal. They think that the other one has betrayed, no? This is the idea. Instead, they start to speak each other. They start to write each other. And they have a great respect for the sentiment and the care for the other. And this is, I think, what I was interested in these two women, because it's not only just a friendship. It's very easy to be friendly, to be friends when there is nothing that separates you, when there is nothing that you have something in common, like a lover in common, you see. But if you have this sentiment between you, which is a very old, how can I say, animalesque feeling, and you superate it, well, that's something very important. I mean, this is spirituality. This is a sublimation. This is something that belongs to the nobility of human being. And this is what they do. And that was what interested me.
We can use also the Greek term philia as friendship, more than just friendship. Philos.
Yes, that's right. There's more than friendship, but the friendship which is not which is stronger than other feelings. Yes.
Yeah.
And many people are actually asking us if there will be soon a translation in English available of Trio. Do you know anything about this?
Well, it doesn't depend on me. I hope there is a publisher. You know, a book doesn't exist if there is not a publisher who wants to publish it, because it's an investment. You have to invest. I can invest myself, my imagination, my time to write a book. But then I need a publisher. Well, I have it in Italy, but in the States, it's yes, I have this this publisher who has translated and who is publishing these books. But I mean, a important publisher who translate and make the book public, come si dice, going around the market is more difficult.
Right.
But
hopefully soon.
it happens. I don't know. It happens. It happens because it happens in Germany. It happens in France, in Holland, in Spain. In this moment, I should have been in this month. I should have been in Spain because this book is now in translation in Spain. It is on the way of being published, and then I had to go to Austria. And then to France for the publishing of my books. But I've been closed and I have been forced to stay alone. Well, for me, staying alone is not terrible because I stay always alone, so it doesn't change a lot. But I missed the theater, which I like a lot, and friends. I couldn't see my friends. I couldn't go and see my nieces and nephews. That's right. And yes, I miss going around. Take a coffee. You know that there is a wonderful a piece of theater of Edoardo De Filippo, who stays there 1 hour speaking about a Tazzulille Cafe. A Tazzulille Cafe is a small cup of coffee, but in Napolitan becomes a Tazzulille Cafe. And I find this is very symbolical of freedom. When you are forced to sit at home and stay at home, yes, naturally you have the coffee, but it's different. A coffee taken with your friends in a wonderful cafe, in a wonderful town, is different from taking a coffee at your home alone.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. We all miss that. And hopefully we will be able to go back to some sort of, sociality, social life soon. I can imagine you must be quite tired. It's very late at night in Italy. We still have lots of questions. Maybe, we can find some time to try and answer them later. But before concluding this webinar, we want to show something, because how can we have Dacia Maraini with us and not read anything from her incredible production? We would be terrible hosts for sure. So the question is, what should we read? And how do we do this online, especially because there is the issue of translation, and not everything has been translated, as you just pointed out. So we've been going a little back and forth with Michelangelo, and we eventually found a very touching, I think, a clip from a reading that Dacia, you did yourself some years ago. It's a beautiful short story titled "A Christmas in the Snow Globe" that stems from the memories of Dacia's first Christmas after the war and after the imprisonment in the concentration camp in Japan. And so actually we come full circle and we go back to where we started the conversation. So the video is about 5 minutes long, but it's very engaging, and it will give us the opportunity to conclude everything after we have seen it. So please stay with us, and if we can have the video.
Ho in mano una mezza palla di vetro, di quelle in cui attorno a una casa, una città, un albero, si mettono in moto 1000 coriandoli di neve con un solo movimento della mano. Dentro la mezza palla c'è una città in miniatura con le sue pagode, le sue minuscole case dal tetto di legno, i suoi palazzi di vetro. Tokyo è scritto sulla base di legno. E mi fa venire in mente un film di Orson Welles in cui la valanga dei ricordi cominciava dall'osservazione di un piccolo oggetto insignificante e forse anche di cattivo gusto. Scuoto la mezza cupoletta trasparente e vedo alzarsi una nuvola di granelli d'argento. Il vetro si riempie di luci inaspettate. La città prende a girare su se stessa. Tokyo, un Natale di tanti anni fa. La città si ingrandisce sotto i miei occhi, diventa scura di polveri guerresche. Le bombe l'hanno ridotta in macerie. Una bambina che mi somiglia molto sta giocando fra quelle macerie. L'occhio della mente ingrandisce un'immagine, un lungo corridoio dai tappeti rossi, folti e morbidi, su cui le scarpe di una bambina si muovono senza fare rumore. Non si tratta di una casa, ma di un albergo. Lo capisco dagli odori che salgono da quei tappeti di scarpe estranei, di antitarme alle rose, di polvere e di alghe marine. Imperial Hotel. Ecco, si tratta del più grande albergo di Tokyo di quei tempi, miracolosamente scampato alle bombe e agli incendi. Sequestrato dai militari della Liberation Army. Intorno le coperte di neve non riuscivano a nascondere la desolazione di una città vinta e ridotta in cenere. La bambina gioca a nascondino con le sorelle tra quelle macerie, una casa spaccata con le pareti ancora intatte, i tatami, pavimenti di raffia a rettangoli, sono saltati in aria come palette di legno sporco. La sorella più piccola, che porta i capelli biondi lunghi sulle spalle, la sta cercando. La sorella più grande corre a rifugiarsi dietro un angolo di palazzo rimasto miracolosamente in piedi, ma non si accorge di un ferro che sporge dalla scala spezzata di quella casa fantasma. La ragazzina ci sbatte contro e cade, ferendosi un ginocchio su delle schegge di vetro. La neve si tinge di sangue, la sorella accorre. Che facciamo? Non si gioca più a nascondino? Ma no, continuiamo. Il freddo le attutisce il dolore, ma il ginocchio prende a gonfiarsi, il sangue le sta sporcando le scarpe. Dovranno per forza tornare in albergo. Il dolore è insopportabile. Un dolore così non entra nella mezza palla di vetro e trabocca furioso. Trova pace solo quando una suora gentile dalla voce opaca dice alla bambina: pensa alle piaghe di Cristo. Ma forse questo è avvenuto molti anni dopo, in un collegio fiorentino, dove le suore energiche si muovevano fra la cucina e le aule di studio facendo tintinnare i rosari dagli enormi grani di vetro. Domani risorge, dice ancora la suora dalla voce opaca. Cristo è morto per la cattiveria degli uomini, ma rinascerà perché è figlio di Dio. Da quelle ferite sui piedi e sulle mani spunteranno tanti fiori. Per anni ho aspettato di scorgere i fiori saltare fuori dalle ferite, ma più di sangue e pus non ho mai visto. Era la vigilia di Natale, ecco perché confondo i ricordi. Quella sera a Tokyo si festeggiava qualcosa di straordinario, la prima vigilia di Natale del dopoguerra. Nella sala da pranzo degli alti soffitti dell'Imperial Hotel era stata preparata una cena con le cose preziose che gli americani avevano portato al loro paese: polvere di piselli, granchi in scatola, montagne di gelato alla vaniglia e gallette dolci. Il fatto ignominioso era che le bambine quella sera non erano state invitate a quella meravigliosa cena della vigilia nella grande hall dell'Imperial Hotel. Troppo piccola era stata la spiegazione tautologica degli adulti, come se non fossero state anche loro in un campo di concentramento assieme agli adulti per 2 anni, come se non avessero patito la fame anche loro come gli altri, come se non avessero trascorso le giornate a parlare di cibo assieme ai grandi. Col pianto in gola, le 3 sorelle salgono le infinite scale dell'Imperial Hotel, si cacciano sotto le lenzuola e aspettano che i grandi spengano la luce per potersi scatenare in grandi battaglie di cuscini. Domani è Natale, mamà, Credo che abbia gridato la bambina dai capelli tanto chiari che sembravano bianchi, mentre la giovane madre le tirava le coperte sul collo. «Rimani con me, ti prego», l'aveva supplicata la figlia. Il profumo della lavanda Yarley carezzava le narici della bambina che avrebbe voluto stringere a sé la madre e non lasciarla andare giù alla cena coi militari, ma gli ufficiali la stavano aspettando nella sala da pranzo addobbata a festa e lei non poteva mancare. Assieme col suo bellissimo marito, già immaginava la bambina come avrebbe sceso le scale, quella giovane madre tirando su la gonna con 2 dita per lasciare scoperte e libere le 2 scarpine incrostate di strass. Ma eccolo, il seducente giovane padre, anche lui sulla soglia della camera da letto delle bambine. Indossa una bella camicia bianca e una giacca nuova color cachi che gli sta larga in vita. Si avvicina al letto, dove si trova distesa la figlia maggiore accanto alla moglie. Attira a sé con un gesto affettuoso la testa della donna e si china a baciarla sulle tempie. Mai più si sarebbero baciati a quel modo, con tanta tenerezza e abbandono. Mai più la bambina li avrebbe visti in futuro stringersi con tanta grazia e felicità. Ma quella sera di Natale tutto ha cominciato a precipitare e deteriorarsi. Cosa è successo? Come avranno potuto perdersi e allontanarsi senza un rimpianto quei 2 innamorati? Impossibile saperlo. Questo faceva parte del segreto dei grandi.
Here we are. I think this is a very beautiful story, which was actually translated by our Michelangelo. And just before we conclude the webinar, I wanted to share a couple of thoughts about this story. Here we have an object, the snow globe, that evokes memories, visions, experiences, sometimes confused, but that the act of writing seems to clarify. When you write about something, you seem to shine light on what you call the avalanche of memories, la valanga dei ricordi. So actually, you once said that writing about something is an act of remembrance, and remembering means bringing back to life, sometimes even doing justice to something or to someone. So is this the true essence of literature? Is this why you write? And also, since you're talking about memories, I know that your next project will be a memoir of your days in the concentration camp. Are you finally ready to bring those memories back to life?
Well, writing has to do with memory. You can't write without memory. You write always something that's happened. Even when you speak about the future, you speak about the past. So memory is very, these days, what you need to write. So a good relation with memory is important. And this is when I say, for example, why it's so important to have a good relation with the dead, I morti, no? We have a very bad relation with the dead. And that means that we have a bad relation with memory, because the dead are our memory. So I think that writing is a way of relating with the memory and history. And this is not a good moment for memory, because you have to be a good merchant, but you have to be a good buyer. You have to be a buyer in this market, the big market. So if you, to be a good buyer, you don't have to think with your head. You have just to be suggested by what they tend you to give you. And so memory doesn't go with a good market. That's why I think we have a culture that scoraggia, doesn't give a great importance to memory. And this is a bad thing, because memory is our mind, our past, also our soul, l'anima. Even if it is an ancient word, but I say that not with the religious intention, but with the like intention. And I think we can call it anima, we can call it spirito, we can call it imagination, but this deals with the memory.
Thank you so much. I cannot say grazie enough for you sharing this time with us, and even if it's late at night in Italy.
And this is the fourth one in a day, let's say, the fourth one. So thank you, Dacia.
Yeah.
She woke up at 6 in the morning, so
it's a very busy moment of your life. So grazie mille for sharing your thoughts with us and with our audience.
To all the readers. We love the same thing, books.
We all
love.
And
all the readers, and all you, all the students, and all the people who are now on the other side of the ocean. But I feel that we are very near one to the other. Thank you.
We are. Grazie Michelangelo for being such a kind moderator, and we really hope to be able to bring you to Washington and spend some more time with us very soon, Dacia. Grazie again. Grazie everyone for connecting with us tonight. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.